Hello and welcome to the Psychohealthology Summit 2018. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Dr. Eva Detko, and my guest for this session is Harry Massey. Harry is a pioneer in the field of bioenergetics and is the founder of Ness Health. And he has invented a number of clinical technologies, including a health analysis system that scans the energy fields of the body, an award-winning PEM device that is able to reduce pain and inflammation in the body, and advanced homeopathy treatments as well that work by imprinting healthy epigenetic information into water, which in turn triggers a healing response in the body, which is very, very cool indeed. And Harry also has a passion for making films that help educate the public on ways they can improve their health and lives. And he made the best-selling documentary, The Living Matrix movie, and more recently also the Supercharged movie. So Harry, it's so great to have you with us. Welcome to the Psychohealthology Summit. Just thank you so much for contributing, being here.
No, well, thank you. It's great. It's great to be here, and I look forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it massively for lots of reasons. I've been wanting to connect with you for a while, but also I'm quite passionate about bioenergetics, and I know you've got a lot of expertise in this area. So I'm keen to dig a little bit deeper and sort of get some deeper insights out of you throughout this interview. But actually, before we go into any of this, I really wanted, if you're willing to, for you to share your health story, because I know you have one. And I think that actually sets the scene because I'm guessing that is exactly what led you into this field and developing all these wonderful technologies and devices, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 42 now, but when I was 21, I ended up bedridden with chronic fatigue syndrome for 8 years. And basically a few things happened. So I once went out to the Alps, was doing a load of rock climbing, ended up with a fever while I was climbing, ended up 2 weeks in bed, and then had all these gland problems for the last year of university. And then during that last year of university, I then went separately to Scotland to climb Britain's highest mountain. Basically, I was doing a bunch of ice climbing and fell off and fractured my spine, although I didn't actually know I'd fractured it. I just had a load of back pain. And then basically over the next sort of 6 to 9 months, I was just deteriorating. And it got to the point that I ended up in a wheelchair to take my exams, and the next, unfortunately, the next few years, I was basically totally bedridden. I lost a third of my body weight, and I'm a skinny person in the first place, and ended up sort of on all these IV drips, all these vitamin IV drips, and tried all sorts of incredible diets. And after multiple years of trying all these different things to get myself better, I basically ended up reaching the limitations of biochemistry, at least for me. Biochemistry wasn't getting me better, so I genuinely tried pretty much every approach, but most approaches you could think of, and I came into this sort of field of energy medicine mainly because I was just asking myself this sort of really fundamental question. It's like, well, if I don't have any energy, why don't I study energy? So I came across the field of energy medicine in that, which we sort of now slightly rename or reterm as bioenergetics, which just stands for the study of energy in living systems. And I was looking for the most premier researchers in that field, and I came across this Professor Peter Fraser in Australia, who'd been mapping out the human body field sort of in a more deeper, further way than the original Chinese meridian system, of which he used to be a professor in Chinese medicine and set up the first acupuncture college, became part of Melbourne University back around 50 odd years ago. And anyway, so he ended up furthering the sort of research. I ended up meeting up with him, which was almost an impossible thing because I'm English, he was Australian, and we met in Los Angeles, as unlikely as that would be. And we ended up hitting it off. He ended up healing me using bioenergetics, and I basically we basically developed together what we now call the Bioenergetic wellness system and all of the infoceuticals, of which an infoceutical is basically a remedy that will stimulate a healing response using some of these principles. And we ended up developing this system, and that was 14 years ago now, and it's sort of spreading everywhere.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, yours is quite a story, and I was just smiling when you started talking, because I didn't know that you were an avid rock climber, so we've got that in common also. Yeah. But that's interesting, and often as it happens, your own struggles led you into having a new purpose, isn't it, really, and actually developing all this great equipment and technology.
Yeah, and that was I don't know what portion of it, but definitely it was a portion of what helped us to get better, was just having a purpose that wasn't just trying to get myself well. It was like, I'm trying to get myself well, but let's use that knowledge and try and develop a system that's going to help other people, and it gives you motivation even in very, very, very trying circumstances, because when you have absolutely no energy, no money, and actually no knowledge really either, or at least no business knowledge of how you might be able to do this. Something has to literally get you to try and get yourself out of bed when you've been bedridden, and purpose is it.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. This is true for so many people. I hear loads of stories like that, and I know exactly what you're saying, because I had a me many years ago, and so I know exactly what it's like to be at rock bottom and not being able to get out of bed or do anything, and it's a pretty dark place to be. So kudos to you for sort of lifting yourself out of it sort of for long enough to be able to learn all of those new things that you needed to learn. And I often hear I've heard you say this before, that bioenergetics is the future of medicine. In fact, I say that to people, right? Because I have experience with this stuff, and it's just marvelous. But maybe you could actually go into a little bit more detail why you say that.
200 years ago, we had the father of homeopathy, who was Samuel Hahnemann, and he showed with what he called provings at the time that a dilute substance of something in water that he later put into sugar pills could basically have these effects. And that was actually one of the most dominant ways of doing medicine for about 100 years. And all the royal families in Europe and England were using it. It was strong in America too. And then around the turn of the 19th century, we basically had the rise of what we would call, I guess, the industrial pharma chemical complex, and this just huge belief naturally in chemistry. And this is also partly because microscopes started being used or being invented, and chemistry and molecules and cells were all able to be seen, and subtle vibrations, homeopathic imprints, the ether fields, these aren't able to be seen by microscopes. And basically, both for money, because of monetary interest, but also literally because you couldn't see fields, or there was less understanding of the mechanisms of how this stuff worked. It was just basically killed off. The whole energy medicine, subtle energy homeopathy, however you want to call it, was just killed off. And anyone sort of speaking out against the normal pharma sort of chemical model was ridiculed, and some of them committing suicide, leaving countries, all that sort of stuff. And there was absolutely no funding in it whatsoever. Fast forward to 20, 30, 40 years ago, some interesting things started happening. So one is there was a Nobel Prize winner called Jack Benveniste, who was a prominent immunologist, and he basically found that you could take a mast cell, and normally a mast cell will react to an allergen. You could take an electronic copy of, or an informational copy, if you like, of an allergen, and the mast cell would react in the same manner. He found that accidentally. He wasn't trying to prove homeopathy or anything, and he published that. He wanted to publish it in Nature. Nature refused, and he said, well, get it repeated by other places. He got it repeated in other 3 labs. They did repeat it, so Nature had to publish it, but they said, but it can't be true. And then they basically wrote another article saying he must have faked all the results. And long story short, he died under mysterious circumstances 2 days later. So it's just a little story of the sort of memory of water, or where some of these things are going. And then 20 years later, another Nobel Prize winner called Luc Montagnier, who's famous for discovering the AIDS virus, he sort of carried on some of this research, but in a different way. He made an electronic copy of a virus, and he basically imprinted into a vial with DNA sort of DNA base pair material, and then the whole virus was basically recreated. That was sort of interesting. And then Peter Fraser and myself, we sort of looked at all of that, and we thought, well, instead of trying to copy viruses or allergens, why don't we try and create a message? Because, ultimately every cell in your body is basically communicating together, and they're all interconnected by fields. Thought, well, why don't we communicate to the cell's own field-based communication system with positive information instead, instead of who wants to make a copy of an AIDS virus? Not me, thank you. So we thought, why don't we present to the body information of how a healthy, heart cell, liver cell, or emotion, or a particular part of the brain function, or anything you can think of related to the body, that would be healthy. Why don't we present that instead and see how cells will react? And so we did that, and I was guinea pig number 1, as was Peter. The short version, that's basically how Peter got us better, was because we were making these imprints of healthy bits of the body. Our cells were basically picking up that information and reacting in a positive way, and so we'd get all these amazing healing reactions. And long story short, I'm not bedridden anymore. I'm sitting here talking to you, and built a company out of it, and all the rest. And so there's many aspects of why I think it's the future of medicine, but that aspect alone, that you can just take information, you can imprint it into a medium. In our way, we basically use structured mineralized water to carry that imprint. That you can do that and get the body to react. There's no chemicals involved, so you get no there's no nasty side effects. There's no toxicity to worry about. It's really, really cheap. It's painless. It works in harmony with nature's own healing rules. You're not doing anything foreign really to the body. You're just enhancing the sort of its natural positive informational blueprint that it would have. So for all of those reasons, it's the future. So that's one little side on the pharmaceutical side. And then there's the scanning. So, if we look at the genome, we've had 20 plus years of mapping out the human genome. It cost many, 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 many billions of dollars to do so. And it was done with this promise that we'd be able to have a gene for this disease, and, we'd be able to cure all diseases. And lo and behold, since that's happened, everyone's realized, well, actually, it's the environment that's far more important than the gene. It's the environment that controls the epigenetic expression and, all the rest of it. Your actual gene is not, it's probably 1% of the health picture, and the environment is 99%. So not so interesting. So what's the future? Well, what is controlling the environment of a cell or a gene in particular? What is really that control system? If we go above sort of gene level, above the biochemical level, well, again, it's fields. It's the body's control system. It's its communication system. However you want to put it, or in our terms, we call it the human body field, as acting as this master control system. Now, if you can map that human body field fully, a couple of things come out of that. Well, one, you can read it and if you can read it, you can work out what's at the root cause of going on in your body, and 2, you can correct it and obviously influence and restore people's health. We have a system that does that in a particular way pretty well, and it works out which infoceuticals or which is the best sequence of healing to help get you better. But there is more to it. There's many ways that you can decode the human body field, but particular interest to us at the moment is we're looking at voice, so we're decoding voice patterns. We're also decoding the pulse, because if you look at if, for instance, in Chinese medicine, they're able to do pulse diagnosis. No one's actually decoded that pulse using machine learning, so that's something we're doing at the moment. And there's also skin. There's electrical activity. There's also photon emissions off the skin too. So, it's only at the beginning. So why I say it's the future. Decoding the human body field and bioenergetics it has this massive future. And as that starts to become apparent, and basically everyone who uses bioenergetics in our system are basically all sort of part of this great social science sort of future that we're developing, because in every scan and that data, we can basically both improve everything, but also we can share that research to other researchers and to the world at large, so that bioenergetics becomes more of the future. And ultimately, wouldn't you rather just put your finger on a thing or speak and have all of this insight about your health, instead of expensive blood tests, ultrasounds, MRIs, or whatever it is? I mean, I'm not saying you don't need those things, because I'm not going against medicine. Of course, I would never do that. But I'm just saying that there's more efficient ways to get a sort of a wellness, a general picture first, before, and then your doctor or practitioner could be much more refined and know where to go, or where you might need further medical tests. But or if I'm being really futuristic, maybe the body field scanning is so good that you wouldn't need to do that, and then it's way cheaper and non-invasive and much more convenient, because you can do it all from the comfort of your own home. And I think as people start to know that's game over for normal medicine, and bioenergetics sort of starts coming to the forefront. None of us know the timeline, because there's great powers and money that perhaps don't want this future for a while, but that doesn't it doesn't necessarily matter. It is all coming out, and I've definitely seen over the period that we've been involved that it's just become people understand it more and more, and it's just becoming more of a prevalent forefront idea.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, in a way, we live in very exciting times, isn't it? Because we are on the cusp of that. And it's true, we've been stuck at the biochemistry level for so long. In fact, a lot of people still are. And there are serious limitations to that approach, as we know. And of course, the cost and everything else. But it's interesting, because I was telling you that I grew up in Poland. And some people who are watching this will already know this, because I said this before. I was aware of bioresonance technology when I was a kid. So this has been around for a while. But of course, it's not popular with everybody for the reasons that we mentioned. It's never going to be very popular with the pharmaceutical industry, for instance, because as we know, that will impact on their bottom line, et cetera, et cetera. But nevertheless, I agree with you. I think the revolution is upon us, and there's no way of stopping this. I think this is the seriously exciting bit. This is basically now an unstoppable force, and the more and more people are in the know about this and what this technology can do for them, this will only grow bigger and go further and further into the world. And so I wanted to ask you, because we're talking to the autoimmune community here, and of course, people will be interested if they don't know that much about it at the moment. They'll be sort of interested what it can do for them. But of course, this event in particular is focusing on the sort of mental, psychological, emotional side of health. So I know you've got some insight on how all those things link together. So yeah, do you wanna share that?
Yeah, sure. So we have this concept of I call it emotional immunity, but let's just start with the body field concept. So the body field is basically this master control system, and basically every single cell is able to communicate to every single cell using basically using fields. And there is also a biochemistry communication system, but it's very, very slow because it has to go all around the blood and all that type of stuff, and it basically can't explain how every cell knows exactly what to do every single second. I mean, it's basically the field is coordinating basically trillions of operations every single second. So take that as a given. Then when we're getting into the emotional psychology trauma end, now one part of the body field that is very easily able to influence is all of your thoughts. So your thoughts are basically part of that field, and all of that information is directly connected to every single other cell in your body, including all of your immune cells. So it's directly connected via the vagus nerve to both the digestive system and immune system. And if you can't calm down the parasympathetic system, or i.e. you have good vagal tone, then your digestion goes completely awry, and your immune system becomes overactive. And so basically, when we're looking at that in terms of the brain, what we've discovered in our research is over time, as you get a disease, you end up with basically a lot of what we call emotional oscillations. So you can it's sort of like these spheres of energy, but really it's like spheres of thought and emotion inside your brain in many areas, and it basically starts getting very, very chaotic in there. And when it's chaotic, and you can imagine all of these oscillating there, that's basically controlling or influencing your hypothalamus, because it's the environment around your hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus is what's controlling your autonomic nervous system, and all of these other things in turn. So if you basically can't calm down all of these emotional oscillations, you basically just end as you say, you just end up in this very sympathetic state. You don't have any proper vagal tone, and your sort of autoimmune reactions just sort of basically start spiraling out of control, and you end up in this autoimmune thing. And I think it's a very, very important part, because while inflammation, what you eat, and I'm very into the lectin end, et cetera, while there are all these inflammatory foods that will set off inflammation, underneath all of that, there are obviously a whole bunch of healthy people who eat inflammatory foods who don't have autoimmune conditions, and they're not stressed. They have good vagal tone and all the rest of it. And the difference is the trauma. Basically, if you don't correct the trauma, and if you can't help people to calm down, honestly, it doesn't matter about all of these diets, because they'll still be in this fight or flight stress response. Their immune system still overreacts to everything. So, and I'll put full cards on the table. I had basically autoimmune Addison's, and as I said, when I was bedridden all those years, and I basically did all the perfect diets and all of that type of stuff, but I was basically stressed out to hell. So that's really why I wasn't working. Like, I basically just had all of that trauma. Now all our infoceuticals and energy medicine techniques, they got me out of being bedridden and all of that stuff. There is basically ways through infoceuticals and information medicine that you can help calm down all of these brain oscillations, and bring things from your subconscious into your conscious that will basically just help you realize what those patterns are. Because a lot of this is just self-realization. What are the patterns that are going on? So we do have ways that will help you do that. And then of course and I say, well, then there's an awful lot of being a Freud on yourself, which is not always pleasant. But
it's time well spent, isn't it? It's time well spent. It's always worth it. It may be temporarily unpleasant, but I always say, from my point of view, that's what got me out of my disease state. And it was worth it. It was worth being uncomfortable for a while, whilst you sort of trying to figure it all out.
I think it's when you're ill, there's no getting away from it. I mean, you are angry, you are depressed, it's just, I describe it as like being under a black cloud. But I think, say, day by day, just little bits, you just chip off a little bit and you just find after a few months, other people will notice that you are happy and you're like, no, I am happy and I do have more energy and you're more relaxed. So, just helping yourself get into that more relaxed state and not be triggered is so important. And I think I'd probably rate it above diet. Of course, the thing is, once you become allergic to all these things, you just by necessity have to do diet, and then it's generally very difficult to suddenly become non-allergenic afterwards. But if you're fortunate and you're not allergic to everything, but you're a total stress head, then you want to absolutely focus on all the mind stuff. That's all I'll say to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with that, actually. Personally, for me, all the mind stuff did a lot more than the diet. Obviously, the diet was important. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm a nutritionist, so I'll always say that. But I have to say the biggest impact in my recovery was definitely the mind stuff. So actually, maybe it would be interesting if you could talk a little bit more about the infoceuticals. So say somebody is getting scanned, and it can be like that, can it? That somebody's presenting with a physical, and often is presenting with a physical symptom, and the system will pick up on the fact that there is some sort of hidden trauma, say it's ovarian cysts or something like that. And yet what you're getting on the energetic level is that there's some sort of blockage because maybe that person had a miscarriage or abortion or something like that. And there's obviously something going on in that area that is I didn't finish that emotional oscillation stuff in the brain really, but basically what's pretty cool is you can basically put your hand on a scanner, and basically within a few seconds we can scan the body field, and then in particular we can look at the fields of the brain, so we can see where these emotional oscillations may be in the brain. We've also mapped out the trauma in different parts of the brain to different organs and different systems of the body. So like we're not a cancer diagnostic system, so I don't really want to say that, but let's just say if someone had an issue in some particular organ or something like that, that will basically show up in a relay point in the brain, and there's basically a particular trauma and emotion that's correlated to that. So we can basically see in the scan all of that across. So we see the relay point, the emotion, and then the organ, and then to your point, it's like, well, what do we do about it? Well, we can give an infoceutical that's direct to that particular organ. So I don't know, if it was kidney or something like that, we would give them kidney provider, which would basically present the optimal healthy field information of how a kidney would when it's working optimally. The cells in the kidney will pick that information up, and they will respond in turn, which often means if it happens to be full of toxins or something, it'll excrete stuff so it can get itself back to the healthy tissue state or whatever it is. Basically, we have all of these. We have these different infoceuticals that are related to different parts of the body, and then we also have them that are related to the four main regions of the brain, which are then related to all these other organs, which is basically the two mesoderm, ectoderm, and endoderm layers. Which, I'm talking double Dutch, which correlate to the brain stem, cerebellum, etc., etc. Yeah, and so just to be absolutely clear, this is water imprinted with information. That's what's so cool about it.
Basically, we have a bottle that has structured water in it, and then we basically imprint it using a laser with information that has been recorded from a healthy bit of tissue.
Okay, so you take this, how long, how often, all of that, to see the benefit.
It depends, but most people get a reaction within a few days. Like anything, it depends. Well, it depends how long someone has had something for. What else they're doing. Are they still eating burgers and knocking back lots of anti-inflammatories? Or whatever it is. It depends. I mean, for most people, we see positive reactions within days, and generally you're probably looking at like 3 to 6 months to feel really good. You basically have a scan, and generally you're recommended five infoceuticals, which last for a month, and then you get rescanned and take the sort of the next layer and the next layer on again. But yeah, most people notice something pretty significant in that first 30 days, and because we collect all of the data in the clouds, we had 5,000. This is out of 5,000 people doing it last year. So those that basically scored their health and wellness as a 3 out of 10, there was 162% increase in that score. So on average, I think it went up to an 8 over that first 30. So over the first 30 days, that's over 5,000 people. I think there should be more details of that on the nesthealth.com, and then there's a research section that details that up a bit more.
Tell us a little bit more about the accessibility of the Nest system.
It was pretty easy because we basically built it in a cloud-based environment, so that both practitioners and clients can basically be able to scan completely remotely. So it's pretty easy. So if you order a scanner, one's just drop shipped to your door. If you're a practitioner, you can get to try it out. If you're a client, you get paired up with a practitioner. Then you basically just have your scan, and you just go on from there. But in short, you don't have to go and visit people in a clinic anymore, because the whole thing is built on the cloud, and we can just drop ship the scanner to you and then drop ship the infoceuticals.
Awesome. Great. That's excellent. Well, thank you so much for everything that you've shared. Really, really interesting conversation indeed. And before we finish, is there anything else that you wanted to add or mention at all about your work projects, anything at all?
I did, yeah, just a couple of things. So, one we're, really, really keen on our mission of decoding human body field to get to the root cause, restore people's energy for life. So, if you do want to be a part of that and be scanned, we're really grateful, because that helps us to increase the accuracy of everything we're doing and spread bioenergetics further. If you want to have a go, that's on neshealth.com. And also, if you don't know anything about this sort of energy medicine bioenergetic space, I'd recommend watching The Living Matrix, which you can get on the livingmatrixmovie.com, or again, actually you can get it on neshealth.com, or there's also our movie Supercharged, which is superchargedmovie.com.
Excellent, brilliant. That sounds good. So, excellent. Thank you for pointing out towards more information, because it's really fascinating stuff. So, not saying that it's simple. It's obviously complicated physics, etc. But I'm sure the movies actually relay this information in a easy sort of to consume manner for anyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The Living Matrix movie, that's basically about how the body field acts as a master control system. And we filmed for people with incurable diseases, and paired that with the one basically saw how they were healed using various techniques in energy medicine, and interviewed scientists on how that could happen. Supercharged was more just on this subject of energy outside of biochemistry. So just looking at how you can basically leverage things within your environment, circadian rhythms, blue light, red light, structured water, etc., etc. So more the sort of basic tenets of health, which would actually be really helpful for anyone with autoimmunity. So yeah, they're both good films, different but related subject areas.
Excellent. Well, Harry, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and connecting with you. Thank you for everything that you shared. Massive appreciation from myself and everybody who's watching.
Thank you. No, it's been great.
Thank you very much for watching.